Well, have you ever heard, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free? If you ever doubted this statement, then ask Massimiliano Allegri and Xavi Hernandez. The former has already been set free, and the latter is just a matter of time. In this video, I will be discussing the role managers play in modern football and whether managers are walking on a tightrope as far as their relationship with the internal club management is concerned. I'll be talking about managers who have been sacked because of speaking the truth and managers who also risk being sacked going forward and the future of managers in football. Stick to me to the very end so that you learn more about the Xavi story, the Massimiliano Allegri story, and many, many more other coaches who have walked through the same path as these two coaches. It is now in the public domain that Juventus have sacked Massimiliano Allegri. Remember, mostly we are used to managers being sacked because of poor performance in the pitch. But Massimiliano Allegri just recently won the Coppa Italia. And ironically, it is in that match where he won the Coppa Italia that he was booked. And at the same time, he made some remarks against the sporting director of the club that has caused the club to part ways with the manager. Most people, this is a point of debate. There are some who think that Allegri just gave a glimpse of what is happening in behind the scenes for the club. And there are those on the other side who are arguing that he went way too far. Okay, I understand Massimiliano Allegri was bitter. He was angry at that particular moment. And probably the things that he said at that particular time may not be exactly what he felt. But also, let us not forget, whatever somebody says when they are angry could be a reflection of underlying issues and unresolved problems. So, for him to go to an extent of uttering some words towards one of his team members, one of the directors, then it means there is much that we cannot see. There is much that is going on in this club that we, the people, cannot see. Let us not forget also that in football, the stakeholders, there have been various categories of stakeholder conflicts, because we, the fans, have been in conflicts not once, not twice, severally with the club management. We have been in conflicts with the coaches, with the players, with the media. But this particular type of conflict between the coaches and the ownership is quite unique. Why is it unique? It is unique because it is not just about the coach's performance on the pitch, but also how well a coach protects the club image, how well the coach conducts himself professionally. To some, this is a conduct of unprofessionalism, but to some, Allegri just spoke his mind. And if he spoke his mind, then this is just a tip of an iceberg. And it's not just for Juventus alone, because also in the last 24 hours, Xavi Hernandez, the Barcelona coach, has also found himself in a hot soup. Why? Because he made some comments in his press conference prior to the game against Almeria, where the club's management, the board, feels that somehow the coach went way too far. Listening to Xavi Hernandez speak, he was very honest. He just said that at this particular time, Barcelona's situation cannot allow them to compete with their bitter rivals, Real Madrid, which is a fact. We all know that in the recent past, the last 2 years, Barcelona has not had a very good financial situation. And because of their financial situation, they have been relying on academy players and they're also making transfers. They have not been going for the quality players that are out there in the market. They have just been going for players whom they can afford. And in most cases, if you are going for what you can afford in today's transfer market, then it means you're not able to attract the top of the very top. This is unlike Real Madrid. Real Madrid, in the last 2 years, they have gone for Jude Bellingham. And now, as we speak, there's a high possibility that Kylian Mbappe will be heading to Real Madrid. Of course, what Xavi said, that's true. We all know that's true. Barcelona cannot compete against Real Madrid in this particular situation. What also he also said about, he also made comments about the Vitarog situation, and he just said that Vitarog was not needed in January, but instead the plans were for summer. These are things that are out there, and maybe most people did not know initially, but these are things that from common sense you can just know. These are things that hold, especially the first one about the economics of the club. But now it turns out that the club's president and the directors are contemplating on sacking Xavi Hernandez. This is just a few weeks after he made a U-turn. You remember earlier on this year, Xavi Hernandez said that this is his last season with Barcelona. But recently he made a U-turn and said that he's committed to extending his contract and staying at the club. So they allowed him to extend the contract. They allowed him to make a U-turn. Then here we are today talking about a possible sacking. And this is what makes me pose this question. Is it safe for managers in modern football to express themselves? This is not the first time that such a thing has happened. In history and in the recent past, let's say in the last 10, 15 years, there have been a number of coaches that have been sacked simply speaking their minds. There have been coaches that have been sacked because their plans and the club's ambitions are not matching. Julian Lopetegui was sacked, but not really sacked. He left Wolves because of a disagreement with the management, because of a disagreement as far as the transfers were concerned. To him, he was ambitious, but the club management said, look, we don't have the finances that you need to finance the transfers that you want. And he just decided, if that's the case, then I'm leaving the club. The same thing applies to Scott Parker. Scott Parker's tenure at Bournemouth came to an end to everybody's shock. They had lost 9-0 to Liverpool. And the coach was honest and said that with this particular type of players and that particular kind of play, then he does not see any bright future for the club. A few days later, he was sacked by Bournemouth. Mourinho, famously during his second spell at Chelsea, between 2013 and 2015, Mourinho, after winning the Premier League in the 2014-2015 season, the following season he had a very difficult spell. And during that spell, he had so many issues. He had controversies in and off the pitch. He had controversies with the medical team. He had controversies with the FA, controversies with the match officials, and above all, controversies with the club ownership. And not once or twice did he go public criticizing the club ownership and their commitment to ensuring that the club prospers. Later on, after these issues, Mourinho was sacked. Also, Mourinho, during his tenure at Tottenham, we are all familiar with the popular video where he went on press conference and spoke about the situation in Tottenham and spoke about the management and the ownership and how unbothered they were as far as a success of the club is concerned. Also, Mourinho had the famous football heritage talk while at Manchester United, where he spoke the truth, he spoke facts. He highlighted how Manchester United was lagging behind other teams, the likes of Manchester City, and he made comparisons, one-on-one comparisons between the players that Manchester United had then and Manchester City. But then what happened? The club sacked him. I know he was sacked maybe partly due to performance on the pitch, but also partly due to his openness. And later on, 5-6 years later, that's when he was vindicated. And people thought that whatever Mourinho was saying was true. Antonio Conte, during his tenure at Tottenham, same thing. He also went on press conference and talked about the dissatisfaction they had with the club ownership, and he was sacked. Harry Redknapp, in 2012-2013 season at Tottenham, same thing. And this makes me wonder, and probably for Tottenham Hotspur fans, probably they're also thinking about the same thing. What would happen to Ange Postecoglou given his recent remarks as far as the club ownership is concerned? Because recently, after Tottenham lost to Manchester City, Ange Postecoglou said that he did not realize how fragile the club was, both internally and externally. He even went ahead and said that in the last 48 hours, that was then, that in the previous 48 hours, he had learned so much about the club that probably he had not known. So this kind of remarks are the remarks that it seems the club ownership, the owners of the clubs are not liking. And if statistics is anything to go by, all these other managers have been sacked because of this particular issue, then chances are Xavi Hernandez will be sacked by Barcelona. For Ange Postecoglou, I'm not sure really, but if we are going by what statistics tell us, then more often than not, managers are sacked. So it follows that he may also be sacked. So this poses a very serious concern as far as the future of managers is concerned. So you're hiring a manager, you're a football club, you have hired a manager. In hiring this manager, you expect him to perform well in the pitch. You expect him to guide the club to success, to achieving the objectives of the club. But at the same time, this manager is expected to protect the image of the club. Now this brings in the question of dilemma. This is a moral dilemma. If your club is rotten from the inside and you are the manager, would you go out there and expose the rot? Or would you keep quiet and allow the rot to go on? This is a very serious question. And for managers who have stood their ground, they have had to part ways with those clubs because to them, their conscience does not allow them to stand in that particular sort of rot. And so there's need for open communication. In football, like in any other company, the stakeholders are bounded by trust and openness. There is no way that the club is rotten from the inside, yet they don't want it to be exposed on the outside. We have seen in the Premier League recently, this season, there have been teams that have lost, they have been deducted points simply because of some irregularities. Don't tell me that these irregularities happened automatically. There were people involved and there were people who knew about this particular stuff. If it was false reporting, there were people who knew this. But if these people would have stood out and spoken it out earlier on, then probably these teams would not have faced the predicament that they faced. But because they chose to keep quiet, to save their jobs, then when the rot becomes too much that it cannot no longer be hidden, it's exposed. And when it's exposed, the consequences are dire. So going forward, is it good for managers to expose? Not only managers, even players. We have also seen players like, for example, a very controversial Arsenal case with Mesut Ozil when he criticized something happening somewhere in the world. But then after he criticized that, he was frozen. But these things continue to happen and they'll continue to happen. And this makes me, for once, support the IRF, the independent regulator of football in the Premier League and in English football. Because with the IRF, the owners of the clubs, the boards, will be kept in check. Because there's a trend as far as the ownership of these football clubs is concerned, where the owners come in who do not have an interest for the well-being of the clubs. There are owners who are coming in buying clubs for their own selfish needs. How do we expose such owners? How can such owners be exposed so that the whole world will know, so that the fans will know that this particular system will not work, because their interests and the interests of the owners are quite diverse. For football clubs to operate sustainably, for football clubs to operate efficiently, and for them to be able to achieve their goals, then there needs to be some sort of cohesion. There needs to be some sort of openness throughout the chain of command, throughout the stakeholders. The fans should be able to know what's going on in the club. When something is not good, when something bad is happening in the club, we need to be open with one another. We need to talk about things openly without fear of consequences. It's a free world. We speak about free world and democracy. But if somebody says something which is negative and probably you feel that it affects the image of the club, and you decide to sack them, then we are not helping the club. Neither are we helping ourselves as owners. Because for us to move forward, we need to address issues objectively. We need to motivate managers. We need to motivate people to speak out. That's the only way that we can make things better and work for the betterment of the club and for all stakeholders in general. Let me know what you guys think about the Massimiliano Allegri situation. Let me know what you guys think about the Xavi Hernandez situation. And let me know about your predictions as far as Ange Postecoglou's future with Tottenham is concerned. And if there's any other case that I've left out of managers in the past who have walked through this dark, I'll call it dark stage, let me know down there in the comment section. See you in the next video.
Ain't no last name.